Our first talk for the day is creativity and competition. And before I hand the time over to the panel, please allow me to introduce you to our speakers for today. First, on our right, we have Lilian Chong, Executive Director of Group Strategic Communications and Brand, United Overseas Bank, and UOB Painting of the Year. And next to her, we have Robert Zhao Renhui, a multidisciplinary artist living and working in Singapore who blends reality and fiction in his works. His practice is strongly informed by his observations and ongoing research into the natural world. And on his right, we have artist Eisa Jocson, who examines gender formation, body politics, and social mobility in the service and entertainment industry as seen through the unique socioeconomic lens of the Philippines. Her work is also currently on view in the Columns Gallery booth in Tent A. And finally, we have our panel moderator, May Anderson. May serves on the board of Art Outreach Singapore and has been the organization's chairman since 2007. She also spearheaded the establishment of the IMPART Awards in 2017. Another speaker who was previously part of this panel, Joanna Sleeman, is unfortunately unable to join us due to some unforeseen circumstances, but we know for sure that this will still be an extremely insightful discussion from our speakers present. So please join me in welcoming our panelists for today.
Thank you, everyone, for being here. We were just kind of prepping, it's been a very busy art week, so we're all trying to look and sound intelligent, but in reality, we're just sort of, I won't say who said it, but we're going with the flow. And that can mean wonderful things for an audience because we're going to be a little bit more relaxed and sort of unfiltered. Before we begin, I'm sure you want to hear a little bit more from each one of us as to how we consume prizes, whether we are the awardee or we are the, sort of awarders, right? So, we maybe we can start off with that. Tell us a little bit more about how you engage with the art prize space, and we can pick things up from there. Please prepare your questions if you have any. Definitely be hard on them, easy on me, because I definitely want to come to you so that we can have a more dynamic dialogue, okay? Shall we be orderly, because it's Singapore and all? So, Lilian, do you want to start?
Okay, Lilian, and I manage corporate social responsibility for UOB Group. And as part of our support for CSR, art, children education are the three key focus areas. And specifically for art, our flagship UOB Painting of the Year, this year it will be in its 39th year already. 39 years. Not easy, it takes a lot of commitment. We are very glad that the banks still continue to support visual arts in this region. It's just beyond Singapore. And our objective of having a competition, it's to uncover the next generation of Southeast Asian artists. So our remit is about championing Southeast Asian art, not just in this region. In fact, our global network spans to US, UK and all. I think our program and our plan will lead us to there in future also. Yeah, thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Robert and I'm a visual artist. I work mainly with photography. I guess it's kind of nice that Lilian introduced herself first, because one of the first, I've been practicing for about 10 years now, and one of the first awards that I've won here in Singapore is the UOB Painting of the Year award, and that was in 2009. And that was with a series of photographs that I just kind of, it was one of my early works. I remember that as a very young artist coming out, winning the award was, it was a surprise, because I've been submitting obviously for many years. It's an open call kind of concept, and you can submit in different mediums, and I submitted in the photography category. And then one day they called me and said, actually, you have won the prize, congratulations. And it was a very, I remember it was a very nice moment, because I was still very fresh. I just started, I don't know how to navigate this art world, and kind of just feeling my way around. And then it was this, I think this award kind of, it was, there was the monetary award, of course, that was helpful. But most of all, it was the kind of encouragement I at that time, and the work can be seen. I think it was the visibility as well that helped me, because every little thing, when I'm just kind of starting in the beginning, was helpful. So this was, of course, very helpful in the early stage of my career. So then afterwards, in the last 10 years, I've been actually nominated for many awards, but I didn't win. And all this time, actually, all these awards, they come with exhibitions. They're part of something. Even for the Singapore Biennale, there's the Benesse Prize, which I'm also shortlisted but never win. But all this, I think after a while, because maybe it's I got so used to not winning, and it's always kind of a short list. I see that there's a sense this awards is actually, they cast visibility. I think that for me is more, I would say, more useful for my work than anything else. So I'm going to end here and pass on to Eisa.
Hello, I'm Eisa Jocson from the Philippines. I'm a dancer, choreographer, visual artist. My practice is in between contemporary performing arts and the visual arts. So I think my first award was in 2013 with the Zurich Theater Spektakel with the performance called Macho Dancer. So it was in the theater context that I received this award. And then, like recently, in the 2018, I received the Cultural Center of the Philippines 13 Artists Awards. So this award, I guess, is situated in the visual arts. And just recently, like 2 months ago, I received, I guess I won this Hugo Boss 2019 Asia Emerging Artist Prize, which is situated also in the visual arts. So I guess I'm in between these two contexts, and that's quite an interesting space to be in the in-between. And I guess my practice is also straddles this in-betweenness, and sometimes people don't really know where to place me. So this awards kind of is a sort of acknowledgement of the practice that I'm doing, which is somehow, I guess, difficult to pin down. And it's an entry point for a bigger audience to get to know my practice and hopefully dive deeper into the layers of, I guess, the subject and discourse that I'm trying to investigate.
Thank you. We obviously would love to give a spotlight to the artists a little bit more, so I'm going to just briefly say that I represent, or I volunteer with a local art education charity called Art Outreach for 17 years. I've grown old with the charity. We champion public education in art, so we bring programs to schools, we do public programs and tours as well. But we're being 17, so we were about 14 when we started thinking about an award. We in our teenage years we get a little bit more ambitious and more rebellious. And the thing about thinking about wanting to do an award was the realization that many Singapore artists, especially, don't get to practice full time. You obviously are here in a company of artists who are very lovely and very successful, but many artists who are very talented don't get the privilege of putting down whatever it is that they do to keep the lights on, to work on their art. So what we wanted to do was put together a prize, the IMPART Art Awards, and the idea was to obviously give a bit of a monetary support and acknowledgement, but we wanted to try to get the artists to network, to be exposed. We bring them to New York for a study trip, and try and connect them with people working in art, to give them a sense of I guess what it takes, what it can be, and how much they have to go to be professionals in the art space. So that's what my organization and I do. And Robert, you do win some things in the sense that Robert is one of two artists that we celebrate for the Singapore sort of bicentennial works. He was selected along with Speak Cryptic, and I can tell you that because we do work in the public area, the public love your beautiful time tree. So if that counts, Robert, congratulations. But just to kick things off and just get kind of, really thick into it, I personally am a little bit sometimes, I wonder about art prizes. In that first few heady months and the year maybe, yes, you get a lot of attention, you're in the papers, you do get some kind of publicity on you and on your practice. But the question is, even with the most lofty of art prizes, say, Culture Medallion, right? Will it really help people's career? Will it really travel well in your career? Does it mean that you get to sell more work, be collected by institutions, or is it usually the remit of usually someone's hobbies? It's usually a strong personality. Like I've been told I'm a strong personality. Not true, of course, but strong personalities behind, wanting to do art prizes. So let me throw it to the artist first, and it's a tough one, especially for you because you are fresh from that very, very significant win. But if you think about you and of course others that what is it that really make art prizes helpful to an artist? Or, you can comment on what you think sometimes can be a little bit of a trap or a challenge. Yeah. Robert's like, how honest can I be? This must mean it's going to be good.
Let's answer before this.
Yeah.
No, I'm finding it really hard to answer because I don't kind of, if anything, the awards give me more stress. If I find myself nominated for them, they give me more stress.
And in what way?
I was nominated for the Hugo Boss Prize before I started the edition before I started. And because my only memory of the museum was a Paula PB show that I seen, and never in my young artist mind would I imagine that I can show at the Rockaband Art Museum 2 years later. And it was on a kind of a platform that was for artists, and you're competing for quite a generous sum of prize money. And yeah, I'm not sure if that's the kind of good or best optimal condition to be creating new work for that, because I can see that it is stressful for all the artists taking part inside, because then you're not sure if we are being judged for our performance in this show, or is it our life's career? Because I think I've done quite well in my past, so don't judge me on this mistake that I did in my show, because that's what we want. We want to experiment, and we want to be able to fail, right, all the time. That we can try something new and not be safe and fall back. So you have so many things to consider, and you don't really know what you should be considering when you're going in for. I mean, that's for me. I kind of, it's not the optimal kind of way I would be creating new work, because it's or sometimes I just kind of use it as an opportunity, as a means to be creating work, because you don't actually, because I practice full time, I don't really get opportunities to be just throwing my work everywhere for a show. So sometimes these awards are actually, then they just become another platform to make ambitious works possible, but within, I think only if somehow I'm mature enough to handle all that stress or not. Because sometimes I think it might be not a right time for me to be doing some of the awards, because I might not have an idea maybe for that year, or I might not have the experience to handle a space. Yeah, so I think it's that on my part as an artist, it's kind of stressful to be showing in that kind of context.
Thank you. And it's interesting because what Robert's saying is that he was nominated for the same prize that Eisa just won in November, right, Eisa? The year before her. So it's quite interesting to get these perspectives. Will you share?
Yeah, I would confirm the fact that it was an extremely stressful situation, but at the same time, a situation that has a lot of opportunity as well. Because I guess the nomination was just announced in March. Like, so you have a few months to kind of come up with something to exhibit, and somehow you're not sure if you should exhibit the body of work or practice that you already have, or to push, like to take on the opportunity of creating something new. But at the same time, this something new would come out definitely immature because of the limited time span that is given. So I think each artist is caught in between their current body of work and something that they would want to do. And I think the stress came from this, confusion. Because like, I really thought that this would be a good platform to produce a new work that I've been kind of itching to develop. But midway through the process, my advisors were telling me this is ridiculous. The kind of work that I wanted was around the subject of an epic, which you need to develop in a longer time. So like a month into, let's say by August, I completely did a cartwheel and proposed something else. So that was kind of a risk, and everybody was like, okay, getting stressed around me because all my collaborators are thankfully my friends, and they were in it with me. They were also, I guess I have a good community of advisors, collaborators, performers, editors. So I work with a huge team of artists and friends. So it was quite stressful, but at the same time, it was because of that stress. I guess it pushes you to really work with the given parameters, like immediately. And I discovered like a different aspect of my practice. So the challenge for me is that because my body of work exists primarily in the performing arts, so it's a very embodied research practice and a very present one. So how do I somehow translate my very physical work without me being there? So this was a challenge, and I actually found quite an interesting way to deal with it. So like certain strategies that I do within the performing arts was actually, were able to translate well in the visual arts context. So because of this exhibition platform, I was able to somehow discover this translation into the visual arts. But that's one thing, and winning it is another thing. I guess it's an acknowledgement or confirmation of that risk that I've taken. So I'm very happy with this acknowledgement. But at the same time, I guess it's very new. It's just 2 months. So I'm still kind of internalizing what it means and kind of figuring out what my position is inside this situation. Also, it kind of catapults me more into the art market, which I'm not actually in prior to this. I mean, there's a interest in the video works which were not meant to be sold to begin with. So I'm still a bit figuring out how to deal with the market per se. At the same time, I feel like there's a responsibility of using this visibility, especially in the Philippines. So my work has been circulating more in international platforms, and because there's quite limited support in the Philippines, my wish or my ambition is to really work locally. And so this, at least with the prize money, this would allow me to really, get invest in a long-term process in the Philippines.
Thank you. I'm going to obviously come back to you, Lilian, but it's funny because when we were designing our awards, we decided, we hang out with artists a lot. We kind of like them, you know, so we understand how much stress, how much pressure, so we decided that we would not require new work for submission into our awards. And then later on I heard artists are very suspicious. Some are not applying because they think this is very dodgy, that you don't require work. So you never win sometimes, Robert. But it's good to hear from a very fresh winner, someone who is used to winning. Lilian, representing, our amazing patrons UOB that have done this for 39 years. Has the intent evolved over time? I mean, I'm sure it started. We know how passionate the founding sort of members are for the prize, but would you say that the intent has been calibrated, is changed? So the format, the style in which you administer the prize, maybe you want to shed some light into it?
Yes, actually, UOB started UOB Painting of the Year in 1982. So that's why this year is in 39th year. And when we started, it is just in Singapore. Now UOB Painting of the Year is in 4 Southeast Asian countries, namely Singapore, Malaysia, Indonesia, and Thailand. So we actually have broadened the scope and are looking in our plan to even perhaps add more markets in time to come. With our remit of championing Southeast Asian art, obviously we see the depth and the breadth of Southeast Asian visual arts. And every year we are very inspired, and in fact, with some surprises that they are always challenging themselves. It could be 1 or 2 repeated winners, but they keep reinventing themselves. And we're also very glad that there are new artists that just emerge from nowhere. They were unknown and just boom, with just painting is just won all over. I can understand, because we work with artists to hold exhibitions at the UOB Art Gallery. So what happens is that when you have an art competition, the objective obviously is to recognize the good work. But I believe that it also kind of set a reference point. That's what is good work or excellent work. It serves to inspire, and I think that at certain level, I think we are trying to look for creative, innovative thinking, concepts, and execution that is quite different from what others have done. The stress was set in as you prepare for your show, the first show. Some of our artists have been invited, in fact, the established category artists have been invited to exhibit at UOB Art Gallery the following year. So if you win it in, for example, November 2019, in 2020, we'll invite you to do your solo art exhibition in there. When we work with them, I believe there's some level of stress. And also, I think they are trying not to be boxed in, right? If my winning artwork is this, it doesn't mean that it will be all dots, right? And there are also very good other artists that does dots as a universal visual language. So I think they are taking a little bit of time, which is fair enough, to find what is their signature style. It could be that at this juncture, this is what I want to do. But then maybe 2 years later, I want to morph it into something different. So we actually work very closely with our artists to find out their career aspirations, what they want to develop in terms of their artistic style going forward. Some artists, after winning, they prefer to pursue higher education in art. One of them actually took masters in art therapy because she wants to contribute more to the underprivileged children. And she's our most promising artist of the year, Yoko Choi. Yeah. So I think the role of Art Prize can be to recognize and to inspire the rest. It's not the end of everything. In fact, that is the starting point for UOB as part of our program. UOB Painting of the Year is just one anchor of the holistic UOB art program. We also have our art outreach, which we invite them to give back to the community together. And we also have a 40-year-old 2,500 Southeast Asian artwork in our corporate art collection. So a combination of this actually make our UOB art program very rich. It's beyond the art competition. In fact, that's the starting point. We engage them throughout our program, and in fact, we also invite them to work with us on business initiatives, even on design for our festive design. Yeah.
Thank you. Something you said earlier about setting standards is what I want to come back to. But it's 3 p.m. in the afternoon. You guys are kind of like sitting there, you know. So how about I get you involved and see if anybody wants to challenge us with a question or even make a comment. It shouldn't be just 4 of us. We would love to hear some voices. I can see some faces. I know some of you are particularly articulate. So would you like to share some thoughts or ask a question? Anybody at this point? Yes, thank you. Thank you.
We've just heard that winning can be stressful, and I guess you don't know that until you win. How are art awards viewed by the art community insofar as submitting their works? Is there any reluctance to submit works into a competition? And if there is, what makes an award more appealing for those artists to ignore their reservations and submit their works?
I like that question. I'm going to, give it over to the experts here. However, the awards that my organization started is only in its 3rd edition. We actually announce tomorrow who wins. And it's been a very, very steep learning curve and one that really humbles us because you always start out with good intentions. And with anything, when you have good intentions, you wear the cape of, do-gooder, volunteer, this is just goodwill, but you quite quickly come up against the rock of reality, which is, the ask that you be rigorous, thoughtful, sensitive, professional, and accountable. We have had quite a lot of artists, share their reservations, and many more who have, joined. There is a lot of response that have been very instructive to us. But when you talk about a small community like Singapore, where it's very easy to know the people behind the awards, very often it also becomes about personalities, the judges, the board, the champions behind the brand, and it can be quite, one of my responses would be it's quite idiosyncratic onto people involved, and that sometimes is my lament or my recent lament, because I would want to try and signal that it goes beyond a few people's ambitions or intentions. But for me, that would be a pressure on the organizers to show and to keep building towards that impartiality, which is very hard in a place like this. So maybe I can turn it over to you guys, and of course Lilian, please jump in. Robert seems to be a man of deep thought before he ventures an opinion, but either one can go first. Okay.
No, actually I'm just wondering about your IMPART Art Awards. What's the grand prize again?
It's 15. I'm a bit nervous now because it's a bit of like inquisition. But
yeah, you said you wanted it to be uncomfortable.
I very much do. $15,000 cash and a trip. 5,000 is sort of the seed money that goes towards New York City Exchange study trip.
And it's open to the criteria?
I use the government standard of what is defined as youth, because we support emerging artists, so 35 years old and below, or 18 to 35 actually.
Yeah, so actually a lot of my friends joined because we were under 35 last year. And actually I thought of joining it as well, but this was it was in a very strange situation because you guys have also a fundraising auction for where you call artists to collect, and actually I was invited to kind of donate works.
And you did.
And I did, and that was when I realized actually, okay, then maybe I shouldn't be joining this award at all, because it was something meant for emerging kind of artists. But 35 was really kind of a high gap that you all set. Yeah, so that was, I guess when there's this, because I'm kind of past 35, so a lot of things in Singapore I can't join anymore. And
Still join UOB painting every year.
no, but I think it comes to a certain point where you will kind of stop. I think most of my friends also don't kind of respond to that, because they feel kind of tired operating for so many years. I think it's harder for artists that are kind of longer to kind of join an award that is like that. So that's just some of the kind of commotion among my peers when they were joining your award. Yeah.
And if you venture outside my awards, please do. But to answer the gentleman's question, what would be some of the reservations or concerns about joining a prize or an award?
Actually, I don't think there are many awards you can join these days. It seems to be nominations are the kind of awards that are more. I think for like the Benesse. So there's an award for all the Singapore Biennale artists that actually I didn't know about when I was doing the Biennale, and apparently there's a jury that selects shortlist artists to be considered for this award, where they can create work for the Sethuchi Inland Sea area, the islands. So it's kind of an invitation plus award, and you are in the Biennale, you are automatically shortlisted, and then you are nominated, and then finally you win the award. So yeah, so actually most of the time I stop. I think I will stop joining awards unless it's very specific to my practice, and it's a kind of a research involved. It's a production to a specific project that can help me, and then maybe that would be something I would kind of consider, because there are those kind of commission awards that help with production of the work as well.
Thank you. Eisa?
I guess in my case, it's more the awards that I've been involved with is a case of being nominated by the arts community. So it's, yeah, I'm a bit surprised that I about this Hugo Boss being nominated there, because my practice somehow is, I guess more in the performing arts. So there's quite some people, I guess, acknowledging the kind of work that I do. And so I don't know. So it's through nominations, and you're kind of catapulted into the situation. Actually, in 2019, I was thinking, I just finished a new work, and I was thinking to myself, okay, after this, I'm going to rest. And because there was this Hugo Boss nomination in which you are given an opportunity to create an exhibition, I was like, okay, let's do this. And then, of course, when you win the award, then you would think, okay, after this, I would rest. But then a lot of, I guess, invitation comes in because of this visibility. And so I guess you're stuck with a good problem. I mean, I wouldn't think it's a good problem, but a situation where you should actually rest, but you're in the habit of producing. So this is also one thing that is something, I guess, is a situation for the awards, that you get into a certain mode of producing, and yeah, get into this market system. So this is something that I'm actually very afraid of happening. I mean, I really value the times that I would just stare into space, and if this goes away, there's a problem. There's really a problem. I think we should all go on a sabbatical. I think I think everybody's overproducing, or maybe it's just me reflecting my state at the moment. Yeah.
Thank you. So Lilian, with you guys, right? It's 39 years. You know, how do you try to ensure that there is sustained interest? That obviously the brand travels very far, but how do you get? You know, do you guys go out there and kind of, you know, try to get young artists that you know, to put their applications in? How much of it is you know, you guys working hard to get the right constituency to apply, or is it really you have the pleasure and privilege of sitting back knowing that there will be a good catchment for the right kind of applications to come in?
I think I will answer this question and the question from the gentleman together. In terms of what are the reservations, I think so far we worked with the artists very closely. In fact, when we encouraged them to participate, the reservations were, I don't have new work, new concept. So I'm just going to hold back and not just submit anything that you know, I have produced during the year. There's also that part about second guessing, this is the type of artworks that would win the prize. But actually not true. There is no specific format because the criteria are very clear in the form. So I think a combination of that, and perhaps there are also established artists that have already been in the market for some time. They perhaps think that they possibly do not need this prize to enhance their career or their reputation. They will perhaps let the more emerging or the younger established artists to kind of like have the chance. So that's my answer for him. And in terms of trying to drive the entries, it is actually across 4 markets. We always do our intensive planning. In fact, my great team is just right in front. They are actually the managers of the program. Every year we work really hard. Established artists, not very easy. We are actually trying to reach out to all the associations, our network, our past winners, to actually spread the word. And for emerging artists, nowadays actually we conduct sessions like Artist Conversation in NAFA, in LaSalle, in many of the visual arts schools, AEP schools, Art Elective Program, and EAP schools, together with our outreach activities. We will reach more than 1,000 artists, or I would say budding artists a year, to kind of like campaign this. Of course, we use marketing campaigns, social media and all that to reach out to more of them. It's more of encouraging them to share with us their story on canvas. It's not about really looking into strictly techniques. I think, in fact, many of the winning artworks won it because of the concept. A combination of that, but the concept is really refreshing. Yeah, and like what I said, it sets the benchmark for all to look up to. Yeah.
Thank you, Lilian. Yes. Great. You were so enthusiastic. I love it.
Hello. Hi. Okay, so I was in school with my fine arts friends, and they're very excited about UOB, actually. So everyone will always try to apply because, like, we all want to break before we graduate. I'm not from fine arts, I'm from arts management. So actually this question is more for May because it's gonna be a bit uncomfortable, sorry. Because while they want to be artists, they want to be good artists, I used to want to be a good curator. And they kind of knew what's a good artist for them, but I didn't really know what's a good curator. And it gets more and more confusing, especially after I graduated. So I'm still trying to explore and define it, but I do realize that I think, unlike UOB, you have a category for artists and curators. So I just wonder, could you specify what do you think makes a good curator? Because, sorry, I do know a lot of independent curators. They have a lot of shows on their CV, but I don't respect their practice, to be honest, because more often than not, the shows are pretty lazy. It's just accumulating numbers of things. And whereas I do know curators that only have 1 or 2 shows, but they're very poignant and very touching. And that is only because I went to the shows. So I just wonder, what is your thought on this? Thank you.
So I did say I wanted this to be exciting and unfiltered, and of course it's famous last words. But thank you very much. I appreciate that. The reason why we have a Curator Award is exactly as you say. We feel that the spotlight or the opportunities are slightly more diminished for curators. And we also feel that in Singapore, curatorially, I think we want to see a lot more development, a lot more, success. It is hard though, because the pool is very small. And the other thing that's very hard is, even when we got nominations for curators are of course far less than artists. I would say maybe about only 30 or 40% of where we are with the artist applications, if at all. You can see that it's hard to judge curators also, because most of their work is within institutions. So it's very hard for us to determine how much is their own and how much is sort of a group think or very, very mentored in that sense. And we struggle very hard because it's very difficult to be so explicit in an application form where you have to say, and this part, and this thing, and he said, and I did, right? So it's very difficult. So we rely on industry insider knowledge. The judges are Russell Storer, from NGS, Honor Hager from Marina Bay Sands. We have Catherine David, who is Deputy Director of the Centre Pompidou in Paris. Patricia Chan is a lovely, very big activist. I rely on them, of course, as Tan Boon Hui as well. I rely on them to really kind of think about, when we sit down, they're always, I'm there as sort of like the scribe. I believe it or not, I'm quiet. Many people don't believe it, but I actually can be quiet sometimes. And I try to notate what is being discussed, and I'm always quite astonished at how much they do keep abreast of what's going on. I will venture, so keep an eye on tomorrow, because I think tomorrow's results are going to answer some of your questions, but I can't say yet, right? We do feel that the artists, of course, category does seem to showcase people who are, talent that is more developed, evolved, and definitely benchmarking wise, we see that standard hit quite a lot. In fact, it's quite a hard year actually, if you know who my finalists are. Curatorially, we and our young curators struggle a little bit. It's really quite nascent. It can be quite stressful, I guess, even for us, because if we say this person has won in the next year, if we say this person has won, the standards doesn't seem to be quite the same. What do you do about that? But I try to think of it as that's why we need it.
Dollars or $1,005. The trophy is actually more prestigious and more precious to them. In fact, we are very wild. Some of our top winner, most promising artists of the year, they are like 16 years old, 18 years old. In Thailand, about a year ago, there's a 12-year-old boy that's won, and his work is really very matured work. And we couldn't even guess that it's a 12 years old work. So age has no boundary. As our CEO said, if Joseph Schooling can win an Olympic gold medal, so can someone as young do well in art. So we are quite open in the emerging category, and we want to continue to do that, to give opportunities, whether it is to the retirees, to the students, or someone that is really interested in art and just want to have a breakthrough. Yeah, get themselves on newspaper, perhaps. We do have that comment also. Yeah.
The 15 minutes of fame in a newspaper? Yeah.
Yes.
Can I come back to you? You did.
Well, you sort of kind of answered the question already, which was helpful, but maybe I'll define my question very briefly. When is someone no longer an emerging artist? Just to cut to the chase, because there's a lot of, it seems a very grey area. I mean, it's very easy to call somebody sort of young artist award. You just create an age range. That's easy. What's emerging, and when is someone no longer emerging? When have they, whatever their next category is, when have they made it artist? Okay,
for us, actually, we also state that very clearly in the form. For emerging, I've explained that, right? Those who paint for leisure, You have not won an award before. So for the established artist category, in fact, I have a POY artist in the crowd here. You would have won an award. You have done group or solo exhibitions. You are a practicing artist. You have, outside from the competition, you already have exhibitions, whether it's international or local.
Won an award can't re-enter?
Can. Established artist category.
So they're no longer eligible for the emerging artist
no.
category?
No. Okay. And also, one more point is that if you are represented by the gallery, yeah, and you have won an award, yeah.
So there's no age definition?
No.
Young artists, I might take that. Yeah. Someone else before? And do you guys have any thoughts on that term emerging? Do you think we should be more focused not so much on age but on sort of benchmarks in the career?
Actually, I was a jury before. I find myself on jury to judge for emerging artists, and I find it really complex because I think all the jury members want to bet for the horse that will run not the fastest but the longest, and you do make decisions that this artist is much better in terms of paper and track record, that he or she has shown so much more, has many opportunities, but we have this girl or guy that is just kind of has much more to prove, has more room to kind of grow. And then that's when you're taking a bet. It feels like this person can make it, but you're not really sure. And then you kind of let the one that's kind of proven himself or herself to not win the award because that other person is emerging. And yeah, so it is really, I think the jury, in all this, I think that the jury has the most kind of stake in it. Then the artist presenting the show can only do so much, because at the end of the day, it's up to the jury or sometimes the public vote when they have that in the category. So I think a lot has got to do with what the jury is seeing altogether. And I think that's what we didn't talk about today in so much, because I think all artists, when they are in that process, they already kind of proven the shortlist or in that cell, but it's the jury kind of that makes the decision of all this creativity and competition. So every year the UOB has a different set of juries. So you actually, in a way, you're seeing juries rather than seeing artists in a way when it comes to competition. Yeah.
Eisa, would you like to respond to that?
Yeah, I was actually also a jury in one of award giving things, and each let's say batch of nominees are really quite different, and in a sense, depending on the constellation, at least how we've, or at least what was particular in our discussions was the position of the artist within his or her own ecology, and how the prize would affect the practice and the ecology that this artist is in. So it really, it depends per situation.
Yeah, I think, and thank you, Robert, for bringing this piece up. I think it is hard and complex and idiosyncratic based on jury makeup. I see Emmy in the room, and Emmy and I serve on various panels and committees. And sometimes, we do take into account what it is that you signal when you confer a commission or a prize on someone. And it carries sometimes an agenda that is very much our individual own, our combined as a committee, and sometimes also the patron behind. Many of us serve when we're not the ones sort of giving the award. We're just sort of the hired guns to help make the decision. It is complex, and I think sometimes it really we can't run away from understanding what is going to signal. Even before the IMPART Awards conferred, we talked about that tomorrow. I already got calls and texts, many texts about what the finalists signify. How can you have this one person with these other people because you know? Or I love that you have this one person against everybody else because, I'm wondering who's going to win because will the shoo-ins win? Like the body of work, the established, this and that, or will the dark horse who's nobody's heard of, kind of, so it is very complex and it's very nerve-wracking as well. And I think the jury, if you do agree to come onto a prize jury, will have to, like I said earlier, be disciplined and not wanting to mount a defense, but be ready to kind of throw your lot in there with the artists who are taking a risk and the curators who are taking a risk by applying. I think we also take a risk when we are exposed as the people who are helping to make these decisions. We're coming towards the last 10 minutes, of the award, you see now, I'm really thinking awards, of this panel. Would somebody else, I love that you guys have been so participatory. Would anybody else like to say one or two things? Oh, Emmy. You have a question. I think you should sit down and answer your own question.
I have actually, if this may be the last one, I don't know about whether time will allow, but just specifically to the artists, Robert, and to Eisa. Okay, I need to phrase this properly. If there is an award that you would like to receive, what would that be and for what reason?
She was taking her bag. She thought she was going to get away with it, Then the boss comes in and says, come on now.
You want to go ahead? Or you have already won it?
But if you have a sort of a dream award, like what would it say about you?
I'm not really knowledgeable of the awards that exist.
I kind of make one up. What is ideal?
Oh my goodness.
People with the ambitions to start an award, listen up, right? Let her percolate. Yeah, see, Emmy, the trouble you're causing. Earlier on, Robert, you said that you're not in the award so much. I mean, you pointedly told me that you're not 35 anymore. I'm 49. I have no sympathy. But also, he said that he's kind of evolved. The practice is different. Research. If there was a prize that focused more on research, would that help on that vein? Would you want to continue with that?
Yeah, maybe a long service award for my dedication to the arts. That would be like in the military, they decorate you. But no, I can't think of any specifically that I really want that kind of makes sense for my practice right now.
What about a award that is affiliated with a residency? Is that something that is attractive to someone like you and people that you know?
No, I can't because of what my practice, which is very, very specific to science, nature, and things like that. I have never found, not that I know of, maybe there are any that kind of makes sense for my work to kind of be awarded for. I felt, so not many awards. I think, let's say I don't think I deserve any of the big awards out there. So I can't think of me really wanting anything much.
Okay, well, keep thinking, and if there's a model of an award that you think can speak to some of the people that you're well plugged in, but Eisa, what do you think? She was telling us earlier, Emmy, that she's so fresh from the Hugo Boss Awards, November. When she sat down, we were asking her. She's like, I'm still taking it all in. So this is added stress for you to have to think beyond the prize that you just won. But when you think about the cadre of artists and performers and people that what might really sort of amplify and help them out, materially in their career.
I'm thinking, at the moment it's, if there is a community award, in which that would kind of dynamize a continuing platform for a certain group of people, So it's actually an ecology that you're helping with the resource, and not just one particular artist. I think that would be quite, like a dream award. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Actually, I just remember the competition I join every year, but I never win. So it's called the Singapore Bird Race, and it's held by the Nature Society. And what you do is that within a 24-hour period, and I do this because actually it helps me in my practice. In a 24-hour period, you and your team are supposed to see the most number of birds you can. It's a team of 4. It's based on the honor system. 2 or more of your teammates must see the birds. And so you kind of write down the list of birds you see, and you compete from 24 hours or 12 hours sometimes. And then at the end of the day, you tabulate, and then you have the winner of who saw the most birds. I've never won that before, although I pair with the best bird watchers, and most of so.
That model is interesting. Maybe Emmy, we have a 2-hour window. How many booths can you have meaningful engagements with? We'll talk. Thank you, Robert. That's very helpful. So Lilian, again, you represent such an august, prize. You guys really do what you do well in the areas that you've chosen to play. What do you think can be out there that can come alongside something like UOB, and maybe fill a gap that you've heard about as you've done what you've done in the last few years? What is missing, or have you been told by artists?
I think we did a research some years back, and there are some needs and wants, and I think specifically in Singapore, some wanted a bigger space to do works, right? A studio, because in their own home there is restriction and they can't do that. So that's one. Second thing is that they would like to have more opportunities to be in an international platform. So I think, especially on this front, UOB has been able to provide that. We actually, where there's an opportunity, whether it's in Hong Kong, China, Jakarta, or even Singapore, we actually, when we participate in art fair, for example, they would have the chance to showcase their work. So getting opportunity to showcase their work and make known, I think that's the second want that they have specifically mentioned that. I can't think of any third one, but I think there is something that we have been thinking about. I think it's more for the artists in terms of more long-term. I think very often they might not know how to plan their career, or how do they price their artworks. What will be the next phase of their works? How should I morph it? I think if there is some form of professional development, that will be great, right? For them to continue their practice and be able to still survive. In fact, a lot of our artists are teachers in schools. That will be the one that will earn them the living. Art will be perhaps something that they really just can't let go, but they will still want to do that. So I think there should be some form of safety net, which we really look at the government institution to help, or National Arts Council to help. From UOB standpoint, we will keep giving opportunities for our UOB Painting of the Year winning artists. And I think it is very much of a support within the whole ecosystem. So UOB is very plugged into the whole ecosystem, whether it's about uncovering talent, whether it's about raising awareness or appreciation in art. We will continue to do that. And in fact, I would like to encourage all to visit our UOB Art Gallery. I believe it is the only art gallery that is right smack in the financial district. It's at UOB Plaza, Raffles Place. We have a gallery that now exhibiting winning artworks, 18 winning artworks from last November's competition. So I encourage all to go there and take a look.
Thank you, Lilian. You've heard from the veteran all that they do, all that they even think about, doing, and the kind of rigor that goes into, that kind of commitment. Robert, I think you win the prize for, most intriguing answers. And the prelude to his answers have been exciting as well, as he takes a while to get up to his answers. So thank you for being theatrical. That was fun. But I love that, besides being thoughtful and in his practice, Robert, obviously, from a very biased standpoint, I celebrate that he gives back quite significantly. He encourages, he serves on things, and I think we are all grateful when an artist also is so engaged in being part of that ecosystem. Eisa, I love seeing you in that state. I think many of us who are much older and much more in this thing, we love this confused state because it's exactly where the best things emerge. I love that you're recognized on the visual art side now. And again, your answer about what you want to see, and you said community is exactly the kind of thing that underscores, I think, what it takes for awards and prizes to transcend the recognition for that time and to sort of knit us together. Thank you for having us, and please, join me in thanking all of my friends here on the panel. And thank you, C-Focus, STPI, for allowing us to come and air our views. Have a lovely rest of Art Week and, of course, the rest of the year. Thank you.